Very few battles are as bloody and devastating with innumerable casualties as social media race wars. Recently, I've suffered casualties, or at least my Twitter account has. Trying to take a nuanced position on any issue on Twitter is like navigating a minefield, as any movement to the right or to the left can result in a deadly explosion. My Twitter following has taken a hit and continues to bleed every time I comment on the ongoing virtual race war. A very wise man once said, social media is the worst thing ever invented. Well, scrap that. It was Barrington the Uncorked who said that, not some wise old sage of bygone years. So, even though I disagree with the statement that social media is the worst thing ever invented, I understand the sentiment. Social media sure seems poisonous to human society, and in no way has this manifested itself recently than in the virtual civil war going on Twitter by white and black people over a rental city bike. A few days ago, Black Twitter posted a video showing a black teen with his friends arguing with a white woman over who rented a particular city bike. After a while, the woman burst into what seemed to be fake tears as a white man entered the scene. She stopped crying when it was apparent she wouldn't get away, and that, folks, was how a virtual racial war started on Twitter. Black Twitter accused the woman of being a white supremacist who tried to steal a bike from a black boy while trying to manipulate people into thinking she was being harmed by the young black men. They compared it to the Central Park 5 incident where 5 innocent black males were accused of raping a white woman. As a result of this narrative, the white woman was hounded and harassed online, so much so that her employer put her on leave with the possibility that she might be fired. Interestingly, at the early stage, white Twitter was silent. But all that changed a few days later when the lawyer representing the white woman came out to announce that the woman had a receipt for the bike, that she had actually booked the bike and was right to make a claim to it. After this information came to light, the ire of white Twitter was unleashed. Armed with this new information, white Twitter went on the offensive. Now the predator had become the prey. The black boys were framed by white Twitter as thugs who assaulted an innocent pregnant woman for no reason. They were painted as criminals and thugs who behaved despicably towards an innocent woman. Interesting responses, but totally unsurprising for Americans. I mean, everything in America has to be racialized. It seems almost impossible for Americans to exist outside of a racial framework. Black Twitter started out stereotyping the white woman as a racist white supremacist who wanted the boys to get into trouble. White Twitter stereotyped the black boys as criminals and thugs. Both sides lay claim to being right. Well, they're all wrong, and I'll explain. First off, I don't know how many times I have to say this, but not every negative interaction between people of different races is driven by racism or racial animus. This seems self-evident. That's why it surprises me that Americans almost always default to racism. It's frankly weird. When people interact with one another, tensions are bound to arise. It's a natural part of human social interaction. It's not always the case that one is looking to be a racist or looking to be a thug or a criminal. It could be one is simply being an asshole. So here's my take. I obviously don't think the white woman is a white supremacist, and yes, her fake crying could be interpreted as manipulative, but that has more to do with her being a woman than with her being white. She wanted sympathy and help, and she thought her tears could help her out. And it could. I mean, it's easier for women to have their way when they break down crying. People are naturally sympathetic to a crying woman. Add that to the fact that she genuinely believed she had the right to the bike. So, for the young black men, there was nothing in their behavior that could be interpreted as thuggish in any sense. Not in the least. They believed they had rented the particular bike the woman was laying claim to. As a result, dispute unfolded. What were they supposed to do? Just give up and walk away because some white woman laid claim to a bike they thought they had rented? As humans, they had to hash it out, and those disagreements are not always pretty. From the interaction, you could hear the young man saying, "This is not your bike," stating that he had just rented the city bike as his friends stand beside him. "This is my bike on my account. Please move," he tells the woman, to which she says, "Get off me." While the video doesn't show the young man touching her, it does show her grabbing the young man's phone. He immediately reaches for it and demands she return it, which is when she tells him that he's hurting her fetus. "My unborn child," she yells. "I'm not touching you," the unidentified man replied. The young men never got physical with her. They didn't push her, they didn't shove her. In fact, she was the one who took the young man's phone. People totally ignored all that and came out from watching that video with the interpretation that the boys were thugs ganging up on a helpless woman. This is consistent with the need to stereotype black men as thugs, such that having a quarrel with a white woman is enough to have that label applied, as much as it is consistent with the need to stereotype white people as racist, such that any negative interaction with a black person is interpreted as being racist. This is all just so exhausting and boring, but it seems there is no end to this truly American tragedy. My good friend Stanley always says racism is as American as apple pie, and everybody, white and black, are involved in the business of racism. Well, I wish the racial combatants on Twitter would simply get a life and stop being triggered by any negative interaction by people with different levels of melanin content.